Good evening all, and welcome to the Village of Webster Board meeting for September 26, 2024. If you would stand with me please, and I would ask Carl to lead us in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all very much. Seated. Our first item that we have on our agenda this evening is a presentation. It is by the Historic Preservation Commission, and our presentation, I guess, is going to involve, is it Megan Klein? Clem. Excuse me. And going to be talking to us about the benefits of a historic district or historic districts. Anything? Hi, Megan.
Hello everyone, I'll try to keep this fairly short and simple for you because I know you have other things on the agenda.
Just tap the...
You're going to get that. Yeah, you're
Okay. Just to introduce myself, my name is Megan Clem. I am the Director of Preservation Services at the Landmark Society of Western New York. We're a regional historic preservation nonprofit organization. We work in 9 counties, but we're based in Rochester. And part of what we do is go around to communities and help them with National Register nominations, which I know we were contacted by members of the Historic Commission to come and talk with them about what that is and what that might mean for the village, and now here we are bringing it to the village board. So I would say a National Register of Historic Places is a listing of our historic buildings and sites and objects throughout the nation that are significant to American history, archaeology, architecture, all sorts of things. However, as the Historical Commission discovered with us, we did start talks with the State Historic Preservation Office, SHPO, SHPO for short. They are the ones that oversee this program. And in talking with them, because there's never been a historic resource survey done here in the village of Webster, they said that that would be the starting point. So, rewinding a little bit, the first step would be a historic resource survey. What that is it's a survey. We could look at doing it in the village, we can look at the town in the village, however this works out if you should decide to move forward with something like this. And what it does is you would work with a preservation consultant, whether that's the Landmark Society or someone else that we can lead you to do a boots on the ground survey and inventory of all the historic properties. Since we're in the village, we'd be looking at the village boundary and going through and basically, as I mentioned, it's an inventory of all the historic properties within the village. It can be buildings, it can be objects, so if there's monuments that have been here that are historically significant, those can be considered as well. And in this survey, the purpose is to identify individual properties that may be eligible on their own for the National Register listing, or to define and identify boundaries of a historic district, which would be all-encompassing of potentially residential and commercial sections of the village. And this survey is, as I mentioned, the first step towards the National Register nomination. So the reason the state requires this as a first step is just so that it's basically their determination of eligibility, because before you can start a National Register nomination, the state has to determine that there is an eligible district there. So basically, you don't want to start a nomination, get all the way down the road with all of that work being done, just to have the state or the National Park Service ultimately tell you that you don't have an eligible district. To be honest, here in the village of Webster, you have an eligible district. To the extent of what the boundary is, that's the purpose of the survey. So that's kind of where you would start. And then from there, the next step after the survey is completed is to then move on to a National Register nomination for a historic district here in the village. I know often funding comes up with how do you pay for these types of projects. So there are grants available to municipalities that they can use in order to pay for these things to be done. The main one that a lot of municipalities that we work with use is called the Preserve New York Grant. It's a grant through the Preservation League of New York State. They are a statewide nonprofit organization, so like the Landmark Society, but they work on a statewide level. And these grants help fund up to 80% of the cost of a project. There is a 20% match with it. There are other grant programs out there that you can apply for to help with that match as well. And that's something that we at the Landmark Society, whether we are your consultant working with you through this project, should you decide to move forward or not, we can help connect you with potential funding opportunities, help you with applications for those grants, etc., all of that. So we're also here just as a resource as well. And so the purpose and benefit of having the historic resource survey is, number one, the village can use it as a planning tool when you're looking at development opportunities or just looking at an inventory of what you have and what are things that can be done with some of your historic buildings. Again, it's also to identify those historic district potential boundaries for the state, because this would be a document that would be submitted to the State Historic Preservation Office. And it would also document individually all of the buildings that would be within that historic district to a surface level. It's not in depth. And it also ends in a report that has a historic context statement as well, which is a fairly lengthy in-depth search into the history and development of the village of Webster. So it's a pretty interesting and unique document that you would have that can also be used just to help with community pride and awareness and where you've come from. Sometimes people just don't know until you have it set in front of you, which is a really great document. And then the National Register, of course, takes that survey a step further in a much deeper, in-depth, very comprehensive history of the village of Webster, and you basically would list that district under whatever the different areas of significance that it falls under. So for example, it would probably be community planning and development and architecture. And so you really dive into the development of the village itself, how the roads were laid, when different properties were constructed, how did your commercial section come about, and that sort of thing. And the ultimate purpose of having either of these things done and getting a National Register Historic District is that, first and foremost, a National Register Historic District, buildings listed in the National Register, this is an honorary designation. There's a very big misconception that if you're listed in the National Register, the state or federal government can tell you what you can and can't do with your property. That is not true unless there's state or federal funding or permitting involved in a project. So, you know, if someone wanted to paint their house bright pink with yellow polka dots, so long as it's allowed under local code, they certainly could do that. The National Register listing would not stop that. It also doesn't add protections to buildings, so buildings listed in the National Register can be demolished. But I think it's very important for all of you and the public to understand if this was something you move forward with. There are no restrictions to private property owners being listed in the National Register. The ultimate purpose is that you would then, homeowners in the district and commercial property owners in the district would become eligible for the state and federal tax credit programs. So New York State has a historic homeownership tax credit program. It's worth 20% of your eligible rehabilitation expenses. That's for anything from repair to rehabilitation. It includes roof work, painting, interior and exterior work, pretty much everything but your furniture, your decor, and your tools. Can be eligible for this. So that's a really great tool for your residents, your property owners, to be able to maintain their homes. We all know that there are great expenses that come along with owning any home, but especially a historic property. And then on the commercial side, there's both a state program and a federal program that provide the same thing again, a 20% tax credit on eligible expenses for rehabilitation. So let's say you have an empty commercial building along Main Street. Someone, the owner of that building, could use the tax credit program to rehab that building and bring it back to life. And again, that puts it back on the tax books. It puts it back into community use. So there are a lot of benefits for being listed, not just so that people understand and have pride in their historic, the history of their community, but also these tax credits that become available. And also being listed in the National Register can open up other grant funding opportunities, generally not for homeowners, unfortunately, but for a lot of nonprofits, municipalities. There are other funding opportunities that the door is open to once you are listed in the National Register. So that's really the biggest bonus about doing something like this, is really having that tax credit available to the community. So I don't know if there are any questions. I know that was fairly quick, and I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
Yeah, hey, thanks for coming. Geez, that's trying to think of it. And there's an overlay district in Penfield. It says historic overlay. Oops. Is it something like what you're talking about?
No, so what you're talking about in Penfield, that's a local designation.
Yeah.
And I actually sit on the Penfield Preservation Board. So that local designation, and it's something that I think you don't have here in Webster now, correct? There's no local, it's something you could do.
Yeah.
On a local level, that overlay typically does come with a level of protection to properties, so there would potentially be a historic preservation board that would oversee, usually just exterior
Yeah.
work. But no, so it'd be completely separate. So what Penfield has, that's a local designation
Okay.
versus the National Register, which does not have, it doesn't have any review purview, again, unless there's state or federal funding. So, for example, the tax credit programs I just mentioned would have to be reviewed by the State Historic Preservation Office. But for the most part, if you're painting your house or replacing your roof or doing needed maintenance work, it's all approvable. Same thing with, let's say you just want to remodel your bathroom or your kitchen, that's also eligible. So it's just a good resource, I think.
Do you have a ballpark as to how much these surveys cost?
That's a great question. Working on them, I'm going to very much so ballpark, but for the size of the village of Webster, it could be anywhere from, I'm going to ballpark it around 20 to 25,000. And again, there are grants available to help with that.
The village has an existing survey of historic properties. I know
Yeah.
that's seen, yeah, that has different properties listed, so I don't know when it was completed.
1992?
92.
But it
I think it was
doesn't-
1992, it's coming to me right now.
Yeah, it doesn't include like a lot of the business
It does,
districts.
okay. I know I've seen it, and that's why I was just thinking we were talking about it.
Right, and I think that that's a great start. The only reason that that one is sort of out of consideration for moving towards the National Register nomination is that that survey was done more locally, so it was never reviewed by the state. And that's the main thing, is that the review and the survey has to be done through the state, so it's all inventory forms for all the buildings are filled out, and this all gets done on the state's cultural resource information system. And so that's the main reason. The difference between these is that that wasn't surveyed through the state of New York. And now, because it's 30 plus years old, they wouldn't be able to use that to make a determination of eligibility for a historic district off of, because of changes that likely happened during that time.
Yeah.
So Megan, you said you have an eligible district. Why did you say that? Or what leads you to believe that?
Well, just driving around the village, I think there's a very large portion of your residential area here that would absolutely be eligible to be a historic district. I also think that you have portions of your commercial district which would be eligible. It's just a matter of, kind of the purpose of the survey is to really go through and look individually at the properties from an exterior standpoint and really determining what is the boundary of a potential district. So for example, can the commercial buildings that are eligible and historic, are they connected in a cohesive manner to the residential section, or would it be two separate districts? And that's sort of what we're looking at. Are there streets more towards the peripheral that maybe have been more altered than others that wouldn't be included in a historic district? That's not to say that changes can't happen to properties. They can, and they're still eligible for National Register listing in the historic district. But yeah, that's the main thing, is driving around. That's part of what I do in my daily job, is to drive around and make initial determinations on whether or not there's eligible districts. Then it's my job to make that argument in a historic resource survey that then the state reviews.
I like it.
Yeah, thank you. My only question you answered, Mike, I don't want anyone or any business to be locked into something and put in more changes. You said that is not the case under this,
Right.
so that's important.
Right, absolutely. So, yeah, people are free to make whatever changes they want. I always say within the realm of what local code and what the building code allows, because just because there's no review with the National Register, it doesn't mean you're excluded from having to follow local code.
Megan, this would be, the 92 one, this would be a little different presentation, right? I mean, because it sounded to me like when you talked to us, the new surveys are just, they look different, they're a little more comprehensive, they have a different tone to them.
Yes, so the survey that was done back in 1992, they're a little more comprehensive now. When you're going through the state, there's a little more information. So basically, every property that is surveyed would get an inventory form, and all of those get their address put down there, would they be contributing or non-contributing to the historic district? They get an approximate construction date written down, and then a building description and a brief statement of significance for every property, which isn't something that used to be done with the surveys, so they were a little less comprehensive.
Yeah.
How long does it take if the village wanted to apply for grants? Give them a time, like how many months does it take?
Right. Yes, so for the Preserve New York grant that I mentioned, that's the major one that most municipalities apply for, again, through the Preservation League of New York State. Applications for that grant are due every year by the end of March, and they make their announcement. Of course, it takes forever. They make their announcement typically sometime in August about who's being funded. And then from there, from start to finish, doing a historic resource survey, and then also, I would say, same kind of timeline for a National Register nomination, is about a year from start to finish. Well, thank you, and if you have
Appreciate
any
that.
questions, feel free to reach out to me.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that information. Something to consider. All right, I would open it up at this time for public comment. Anybody who would like to direct comment to the board?
Well, I can do something. I'll do this.
Thank you.
Peter Elder, 59 Dunning Avenue. First, I want to thank Megan for coming in. We are nearing the end of the year for historic preservation in terms of our sites of the month, but I do want to just point out the last one we did. You'll see our sign down at the Hojack Trail. And I want to thank Josh, one of our members, for writing that up for us. You can go to our website and our Facebook page, and you'll see the description of that. He did a very good job of giving a comprehensive history of the Hojack Trail, including what it is like now. So I just would encourage you to do that, and we'll be looking at new sites in '25. So it was great to recognize the site this month, and we'll continue to do that as time goes along. So thank you.
Peter.
Thank you, Peter. Anyone else? Then I will, at this time, close the public comment portion of the meeting. And we will move then to regular village business.
Thank you.
First item that we have on the agenda is a resolution to approve the minutes from the September 12th meeting. They were quite brief. See? That's the motion to approve.
I'll make that motion.
No second.
Trustee Lauer,
Aye.
trustee Lancy, trustee Belkane,
Aye.
trustee Ippolito,
Aye.
Mayor Byers.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Next we have our claims and warrants. Quite a few of them, actually. Take a look at these. Had an opportunity to look through them yesterday and did not find anything that I found questionable and did not get an answer to.
No nuts and bolts for me.
I got a question. World Insurance,
Mhm.
we paid him 71,000, and the same thing, we paid him 8,000.
It's split up between sewer and general.
Okay.
Yep, it's just our annual insurance renewal.
You can tell by looking at the account distribution.
Yeah. Thank you.
Question though.
We already checked it out next year. Exactly.
Oh, I thought you were waiting for one of us.
No, I'm just asking for any other questions. Some have not looked through it completely. If there are no questions, then I would ask for a motion to approve.
Sir, I will honor that.
I'll second.
Trustee Alito,
Aye.
trustee Belkane,
Aye.
trustee Lauer,
Aye.
trustee Lancy, Mayor Byers.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Next, we have a motion to approve a budget modification. This is budgeted expenses for the W-18 and W-20 that did not occur last year. And the unspent balance was put into the unassigned fund balance. They are at a point, I believe, right, Jake, that ready to move, and we're looking at the purchase of new vehicles, and then these two will be retired in such auction.
Correct. And we looked at the supplier that we got from, the last couple vehicles from, which was a Nassau County BOCES contract, and it was not, they're not as easy to work with this time, and I didn't see the same amount of savings. This other quotes that we have, and also this is using the money, or the New York State contract, were very easy to deal with, very quick, they're local, so I'm real happy.
It's the wrong one, I'm sorry.
It's just this.
It's just one item.
Yes, it's the one that's 7926 was the July one. I don't know how that happened. Yeah.
And we're saving money on copies so we can afford to
You guys have
pay
this?
for them.
No,
Judy and Carl don't have it.
just Daryl does.
Sorry, the wrong tab got printed. Yeah, the wrong year got set, sorry.
So they're
Yeah.
in the documents.
Yeah, I'll pull it up right now.
So this supersedes the 3 or 4 pages.
Oh, that's what I got, that's my son, that's this.
No, that's stuff that just
Sorry.
made the change.
Yes, it was. July 9th.
So, yeah, it was budgeted for last year, well, we had 125,000 budgeted. We spent 50 on that yellow truck, if you recall. So that left 75, and 75 went into fund balance. And then the yellow truck we're gonna be selling, but we haven't gotten our new dump truck yet, and then we ordered, I believe it was 14 months ago. So hopefully that's, they keep telling me every time I talk to them, it's coming in next week, and that's been the last month or so, it was coming in next week, so it should be here next week.
I can imagine it. 2 weeks' time.
Right. So, you know, once we get that, we're gonna, the yellow truck will eventually be going to auction as well as these other two. So this is the unexpended funds from the 23-24 budget went into fund balance. And correct me if I'm wrong on any of this, Danielle. So we're just looking to pull them back out of fund balance, the unassigned fund balance, to go into the budget so we can spend them now, because we didn't order these trucks. Last year, we were having difficulty getting Rock Busto to call us back, so we called somebody else.
So, you would ask for a resolution to approve the budget bonds.
Make that motion.
Second it.
Trustee Lauer?
Aye.
Trustee Alito? Trustee Belkane? Trustee Lancy? Mayor Byers?
Aye.
Motion passes.
At this time, I guess I would ask, Heather, do you have anything that you would like to bring to the board?
Yes, I do.
Now, what do you want to buy?
No, I don't want to buy anything. So we just have a couple policy changes that we're going to have to make. One is that the cancer policy, cancer screening, it's now mandated that any type of cancer can be approved for employees to take time up to 4 hours. And it was just breast cancer, now it's any kind, so we just have to update the handbook for that. And then we learned within the last NICOM to now, we're now going to be mandated to create a policy for, in case anybody puts in a FOIL request for employee records in terms of discipline records, we now have to create a policy for that we have to obviously alert the employee. And that's going to be required by the state for us to make that, which obviously would be best practice to alert the employee anyway, but it's just a policy that we'll have to have.
Are you aware of that legal?
I have plenty of backup documentation for you, sir.
Oh, we should give it to them.
I will, yeah. Just letting you know it's gonna be coming down the pipe. And that's all I have, but I know our treasurer has something for you.
Well, I have a question, first of all, your cancer screening up to 4 hours, how often is that? Is that a yearly thing, or is that a one-time?
You get the 4 hours, and so you get to, however many times, you get 4 hours total. If it's 4 appointments, you get 4 hours, that's the limit. It's not per time, no. Well, if it's the same.
Per year?
Correct, per year.
It is per year?
Yeah, per year, 4 hours per year. Yes.
So you could go for
Yeah, that doesn't sound right.
screening year to year with 4 hours.
Right now, it's 4 hours for a mammogram, and now they've changed it to include all types of cancer. That's my understanding. I told you, I'm gonna get more clarification, I'm just letting you know that that's coming. That they've now expanded the policy, that it's not just breast cancer, it's any
It
type
almost
of
seems
cancer.
like whenever you have a screening or appointment, you're allowed up to 4
Well, that's
hours.
what
I think that would be more than one time a year.
Well, you only get one mammogram a year.
Still far out.
Right, but other cancers, you don't know.
Yeah,
that
you
patient's visit. I don't know, I'd love to like check it out before.
Yes, and I can put that up on the screen if you're interested. As I was told by
4 hours
legal
per
from NICOM, it was 4 hours and that's it,
So it does not have.
For the year,
One screening.
for the year, yes.
She's saying 4 hours for the year.
4
Yes,
hours.
so-
That's the
But
clarification.
I don't think it's-
No.
Yeah.
Doesn't sound right.
So, well, I'm telling you, that's what it is. So, for example, if someone has 4 appointments, it's not like you lose it. You get that 4 hours for those appointments. You can use it up till that 4 hours.
Oh.
But I'm
one
not
appointment.
certain if it's like if you had some other type of cancer. I don't know. All I know for sure is that you get 4 hours, and then I'm gonna get more clarification on it. But you don't lose it. It's not like for when you go to a vote, what was it, you get up to 4 hours. This is, you get the full 4 hours. And that can be spaced out between 4 appointments or whatever.
They need to provide documentation, correct?
No,
No?
we wouldn't be able to ask that kind of information, I don't think.
That they have an appointment?
I'm not gonna ask my employee if they have, that would be, I think you're getting into HIPAA, but I'm not sure. I will get you more information.
Please.
Yep.
Well, if they go over 4 hours, then,
Then they take sick time, is
Sick
my
time,
understanding,
okay.
yeah.
okay.
Yeah, but there is, yeah, here it says there's stipulations, gotta have at least 15 employees. And it does say, that the law allows employees to take up to 4 hours of paid leave annually for cancer screenings. It is not cumulative and it expires at the end of each calendar year.
Yeah, so it would re-up every year, right?
That's kind of, I'll agree with that. So you shouldn't doubt us,
You shouldn't doubt me,
I
sir.
don't. Thank you. I don't doubt it. I'm just saying that I could say, I'm taking, I'll be out, and I'm going for screening.
I don't think that we would be able to ask that
Yeah, you're
question.
not supposed to ask.
No, it says you're
It says right
required
here
to
you
supply
can.
medical verification.
Yeah, we wouldn't be able to do that.
It says you can't.
What did he say?
Okay, well, I mean,
Medical verification, correct?
They just passed a law that said you're not supposed to ask those questions.
yeah.
I believe Peter over here.
According to the Googles.
I don't, I got
Employees
it.
must submit medical documentation to verify their absence.
Yep.
Tell Peter.
I'll get more clarification.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Guess that will become before to change.
But Donna, would
If,
you
if
help?
it, if it's a New York State law, why do you have to,
I guess-
why do you have to have a policy?
We have to just update our handbook in which we.
But if it's a law, it's a law.
It should just be in the handbook that we do it, just so people know it's a benefit, that's all.
Yeah, I just
But
want to
it's not
update
a
that.
policy.
Right. I said policy for the other thing, which I'll need your help making. That's the one you have to create a policy. That's the mandate.
I would suggest you contact your Nikon person that told you all about this, and they probably have sample policies already done.
Yep. Yeah. I just want to run it by you, obviously. I already looked that up to see if they had samples. And I think it's on the Nikon website.
Says the law was enacted in 2017.
Well,
Why are we just getting around to this?
we are, I will introduce a new voice to report to us periodically, and that is Chris Talon, our code enforcement officer. First report.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
But, let me just read it off, I suppose.
You may.
So, so this is from when I started till the end of last month. We had 33 applications, 7 CFOs issued, 18 certificates of compliance. Had a few complaints and worked with a bunch of residents and contractors to take care of those.
They don't put the money in the budget. They didn't spend it.
We did 3 zoning board applications, and we went through a historic preservation board for one of them. It was educational. And we've been working, Jake and Don and I have been working to get a couple of issues that we discovered in the code book squared away. So, it's been busy.
Anyone have any questions?
It's one of those trailers parked in front yards.
Where's that?
Well, one's on Main Street, right over here, sticks out in the front yard,
Okay.
40 footer. It's been there forever, and it
Yeah.
only moves once a year. And there's another one on Curtis, or Holly, right?
Yeah. So any of the complaints I get, I'll look into.
Okay,
Just email me.
But I think we should
If there's any
change.
concerns.
I think we should change our village code.
I agree.
You know, you monkey see, monkey do, there's a lot of that going on
Well,
with the trailers. I can work with you.
Yeah, we're working on changing the code as we speak, so.
Has to be something done.
so,
Thank you, Chris.
You're welcome.
Glad we have you.
Well, thank you, appreciate it. Glad to be
Other
here.
than at that desk locked with that book locked.
Yeah, I'm running out of highlighters. But that's all right, they'll make more.
All right. Good. Okay, before we get out, I won't hold it up, but I'd like to ask our attorney if he has anything at the moment that he'd like to bring to the board.
Our treasurer also has something when you get a moment, sir.
Oh.
I don't have anything.
What?
I see my time to Jake.
Before we get there, because
really?
I yield to Jake.
A stretch.
we'll hold that. No, wait a minute, I had it. We'll go to Jake.
Oh, wow.
We'll go to Jake.
All right. Well, I just want to thank the crews and the residents. Very patiently, I was not here, but apparently we should have prepared for NOAA a couple Mondays ago. By all accounts, they handled it very well, did a great job, get the drains cleared as fast as you can. From what it sounds like, I was telling people it's like the equivalent of taking your bathtub and dumping it into your kitchen sink. It's only, it only goes down so fast, so. And certainly 6 inches of water in 2 hours is, I've talked to a lot of residents and older residents that have been here, and they said they, 80 years, and they've never seen it rain like that, so.
And yet that's still small compared to what they're getting in
Florida,
Florida.
yes, absolutely. Yeah, it really puts it in perspective when you think about some of them storms, they dump, 10 and 14 inches of rain in a relatively short period of time, and and the storm surge attached to it, that's some scary stuff, so. But they did a great job. And thank you for the budget modification to put the trucks back in the budget, but I think now we need authorization to order the trucks or sign the documents necessary to order those trucks. The one was, it's a flatbed, it's our W18, what we call it's a flatbed, 1-ton pickup, or cabin chassis with a flatbed on it. And these are from Jim Barnard Chevrolet. This one is in the amount of $56,544.63. And the other is a regular pickup truck, extended cab. We went to that a few years ago. We used to get regular cabs on all of them. But you go to the auction, and all the ones that people buy at the auction, and ideally, part of our vehicle rotation policy was to change these over every 3 years. We haven't quite hit that yet, but we're still trying. And that's to get them before we really have any maintenance cost on them, beyond, simple oil changes and perhaps tires. But, get them fresh, and you can get quite a good amount for them. But the vehicles that are more desirable are the ones that have at least an extended cab or a crew cab, so we switched that for this one truck, the cabin chassis ones, so we don't run out of room in the garage. The cabin chassis ones are all still regular cabs, but this is another one. This is a work truck, and it's very helpful. Sometimes you get crews out when you get multiple, but primarily the reason for the extra space in the back. Sometimes it's equipment, but it's really, frankly, resale. And it's a lot more desirable, and I think we get a better return on it. So that one is $50,530.43. So if we could, and get authorization, I know this is kind of short, but we've been trying to order these things, to sign the proposals and order the trucks.
What year are they, Jay?
They're 2025s. Yeah, that's one of the reasons. We waited later so we could order the other ones, but then, like I said, the Nassau County person we were dealing with on the Nassau County proposal did was not get in touch, and we'd reach out again, and then they'd get in touch, and then they finally gave us a quote, and it was crazy. The one work truck that we have out there that has like the big Mickey Mouse ears on it, because the bulkhead is just ridiculously large. That was from them, and it's a little different. You can't go down and, I'm not gonna travel to Long Island to go pick up or to order a regular flatbed work truck. So this is somewhere local. We go out and go over it with them and make sure that we're looking at the right thing. And so. But yeah, they're both 2025s, and one's a 3/4 ton, and one is a 1 ton.
But it's off of some other public bid.
It's New York State, he's got it on here, New York State, OGS awards, so the vehicle marketplace thing.
That's coming out of the 110, right?
Yes.
So,
And it's, it's just a little under 110, I think it's about 107, but then we get details for them and things like that, and some reflective tape on them, so I wanted to, that's why I asked for the 110 budget modification, to have that funds in there to do those.
So it needs a
Do
motion
you
to
need a
authorize,
motion for that?
to
Now
authorize the
that we have
purchase.
the modification, we have the money, we need to have the motion to spend that money.
Correct.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second. Didn't technically ask for it yet.
Trustee Lancy,
Technically, that did.
trustee Lauer,
Aye.
trustee Belkane,
Aye.
trustee Esposito,
Aye.
Mayor Byers.
Aye.
Motion passes.
And then the last thing, I don't know if Don, Don said he's seated this time to me. The sewage treatment plant project, we have a change order proposed, number 1. As we're going through this project, things are progressing and moving along pretty well. There's, the process is that there's the plans, then contractors will then say, you know, if they call for, in this particular case, it's media, which is our current trickling filter media is rocks. For our new trickling filter, they're going to be a different material that has additional surface area. It's kind of engineered rather than just piling rocks in there, which has worked for a number of years. These are more engineered, this poly, like PVC or a poly material that has increased surface area, so you know, it works better. So they'll submit they'll say, hey, this is what it has to meet, these are the qualifications and their specifications it has to meet. The contractor submits it to the engineer reviews, comes back, and then they can finally order it. With this, when there's a change order, they're suggesting a change. It's an $86,000, I want to say, not really upgrade, but a change, which would come out of the contingency, so it wouldn't affect the cost of the overall project at all. There's contingency budget in there. And what this is for is it's a more dense media, really to protect against down the line if our waste stream is higher strength, or more importantly, if the regulations change and our limits are lower, we want to make sure that we're going to still have the removal efficiency within the trickling filters to be able to meet those limits without having to go back in and look at a change in media. The current budget for the media in both the trickling filters is about $500,000 in this existing project. So this 86,000's 15–16% increase.
Is
The
this our
overall
second
cost.
one? Is
What's-
this our second change order?
No, this is the first.
It's the first?
Yeah.
We had a smaller one.
Well, this is the first for the GC. I'm trying to, I don't believe we've had another.
We didn't have one on Lobella or something?
There's been a couple pay applications.
Yeah, there's pay applications, but there's things that might have come from within the general contractor, the electric, all the mechanicals, there's contingencies within each of those.
Okay.
And sometimes there's adjustments that might change that contingency. Like there's work at the the storage building. When they were going through the excavate for that, there was an old foundation that wasn't marked out for some old building. I think it was an old sand filter from way back when that turned out to be in a spot where we didn't expect. Part of that building, so that requires some additional excavation, additional work and removal of that. That was it. Well, it wasn't really a change order because that was kind of, you know, hey, there's a contingency
Maybe that's
within
what
what the work they're
That's
going
what
to
I
do
think.
in those budget lines. But this is to increase, like I said, increase the surface area. I don't want to get, well, I had a Mountain Dew, so I could talk a lot, but It increases this surface area, the square footage available for every cubic foot of space within the filter to allow more contact on it. And if we had to, 8 or 10 years down the road, they change the regulations, we had to go back and replace it, it would likely be $1 million because we'd have to pull out the media that we paid $500,000 for to put in something that would increase a little bit and work, and then have to take the covers off and do all, it seems like a relatively small amount to be able to do that. But this brought up another question. There's some line, when we have our meetings about the progress meetings, there's some products or some materials that they're ordering for the plant, just like everybody, especially, I'm thinking of some of the electric things, there's 40 to 50 week lead times for some critical components of the project. So if, when they have to get in line to have something manufactured, every time, if we wait for a couple weeks for the board meeting, that's just putting further back in the line. So I don't know, I was talking to Don about it just through an email, if for things that don't adjust, or don't impact the overall cost of the project, I don't know what the approval process for that would be, or if there's things like, hey, you're taking from this contingency, it's not changing the overall cost of the project. Is there a kind of a blanket authorization or a pre-authorization that can take place so that progress can continue rather than, hey, stop for this for a couple weeks, now we go ahead and order it. Now it was 34 weeks, but now we had 12 more orders in that time, now it's going to be 50 weeks. We don't want to do that. We want to try to keep things going. So I don't know what the thoughts are and what the discussion on that would be.
Well, is your comment on that? Now, I think that if it stays within what we approved, that's what a contingency, I would think, would be used for personally. But,
The original, not the original, the resolution that the board took back in February was to authorize a total project cost of $15,932,275. In my view, so long as the change orders don't increase that amount, that you could authorize either the mayor or Jake in the mayor's absence to approve those change orders rather than have to wait for a board meeting. If it goes above the 16 million, close to 16 million, then it's got to come back here. And the breakdown, there's total construction contingency, within that 15,900,000, there was 1,328,000 of contingency. So this 86,000 is well within that. Otherwise, it potentially could push things back a couple of weeks. And what's the point? As long as you're not going over the overall approved cost. But Jake needs, he needs to hear it, like preferably take a resolution or something to authorize either the mayor or Jake, to approve change orders for the sewage treatment plant upgrade project, so long as they don't exceed the pre-approved total project cost.
All right. Well, then I will make a motion to allow contingency funds to be used so that the project is not held up when approved by either myself or Jake, as long as they do not exceed the original price of
$932,275. You're right.
I think that would be fine to expedite what Jake said, this project.
Trustee Lancy?
Aye.
Trustee Alito? Trustee Belkane? Trustee Lauer?
Aye.
Mayor Byers?
Aye.
Motion passes.
I think that will help expedite this process.
Yeah, and I think the resolution is helpful. Is at the tail end, if the controller, the state controller's office audits the project or whatever and wants to know, well, who authorized this change? And at least you got a resolution on record.
We're covered.
That Jake's just not going out on his own doing these things.
Well, then we will move back to number one. We heard from the clerk. At this point,
And
Danielle.
take it away, Danielle.
So we've talked back and forth, a few of us, about the sewer rate study. I would like you guys to encourage going forward with one, to ensure that we're competitive with our rate that we're charging residents. I think that it would be in the best interest of the residents and commercial payers of sewer that we do our due diligence and make sure that our rate is sufficient to cover expenses. I really do want to ensure that sewer has longevity and is financially secure. And that we're also, ultimately, we're also getting the revenue that we need. I did reach out to, I sat through a presentation by a company called Waterworth. They're solely online and interactive. You upload your budget and you can play with it to see what your revenue would look like compared to your expenses and change the rates right in there to see how it affects everything. But I also spoke with BPD, who we already have a relationship with. And they believe that it would take around 26 to 36 hours to do a rate study. And they have a list of what we would need to give them. They're already aware of our current debt situation. They're already aware of what other local municipalities do. So they're familiar with the area. And ultimately, I just think it's in the best interest of the taxpayers and the ones that pay the commercial sewer rate.
What is the cost of one of them, or both of them?
The Waterworth was $4,500, and BBD is $207 an hour. And it could range from $5,500 to $7,500, and it could be less depending on the information that they receive that I provide them.
And all this information was emailed out to you this week in your emails.
Do you guys have any thoughts or questions or?
My point is, for me, is that would really help us with future planning. We intend to be here for the long haul if you're willing to keep us.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point in this, is for future planning and stability and predictability of what we need to charge.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest, I don't hate the idea. Instead of just shooting in the dark here. Still give Daryl a hard time, saying he's keep it at 120 for 17 years.
And that's the other thing. And that's the other thing, if you want to keep it at a stable rate for so many years,
Yeah.
let's make sure that rate can encompass multiple years down the road.
Yep.
Because expenses have gone up more than the 2% that was, I think, on that original worksheet that you had looked at, which forecasted a 2% increase in expenses for some of those. The testing has increased. I don't know the names of the ferric acid.
Perchloride.
Ferric chloride, that budget way up.
Yeah, saw that.
So,
It's not budgeted, but we definitely have enough money.
We could definitely
Yeah.
buy,
Office salaries.
we'll cut salaries.
I mean, and you guys might not always be here for the long haul forever. Jake might be retiring at some point, which is, you never know, 5 years down the road. I'm just saying it's a lot of knowledge going out, you know, and it's hopefully you'll keep us, but we would like to be here and it'll definitely help us.
Yeah, no, I don't, that's part of our role, is not to just make decisions about right now, like we're on the board. It's
Exactly.
about
Exactly.
long-term
Of course.
planning for the village. So, I would be in favor of it, because
Yeah.
I think we're off, definitely.
Mhm.
I've been saying that for a while now.
The town just made some changes as well, which we also included in, she
Yeah,
included.
their rate's gonna go
I saw
down.
that.
The rate's gonna go down, they're gonna get it in other ways, they're gonna charge businesses.
Yeah, they're increasing their connection fees.
Yeah.
And they're also charging, it's going from $296 to $253 per 60,000 gallons. So if you're a commercial user, you're going to get charged $253 for every 60,000 gallons that you use. You know, so I think to maintain our competitiveness, we should consider it.
Well, right now, we charge quarterly for
Yes.
businesses.
Yes.
Is there an up to amount, or do we just charge them?
We charge a
what they
flat-
use?
We charge a flat fee of $56.25 for up to 15,000 gallons. And then over 15,000 gallons, it's .00375 per gallon. And we have one big customer that makes up 90% of our revenue. So there, there's also other, avenues of having a tiered system for the rate. So I just want to look into it. I just think it would be in the best interest of the village.
I agree.
How long would it take? You have a projection, provide you with any projections?
26 to 36 hours is what BPD told me.
I know. Is that working
They said that
1
they,
week,
yes,
40 hours?
yes, they said when they get our information, they work on it until they're, yes. So we could have it within 2 weeks, so. And considering the budget time is coming up, I'd really like the information for that.
Let them just do what? First budget for it. So, do something.
No, they have a little bit more now.
Yeah.
Yes, okay.
Again, Danielle's talked to me about this too, and my only reluctance, I guess, if you will, is I think some of the assumptions that are sometimes made during our engineering study. We've discussed this. We took an asset management approach, which is different than just a capital investment approach to looking at the cost, where it wasn't a one-time investment and then just increased on the cost. We looked at life cycles of particular assets down at the plant and when they might need to be adjusted and when they might need to be replaced. BPD has been a partner since the beginning, even though they're, I think, a little bit more, I certainly think, my estimation, they would be better than somebody just online throwing something into some AI software or something that's gonna spit something out that doesn't have any of the background, doesn't have, and you can't work back and forth with, because my fear, and I think from when we've got tasked with forming the sewer rates 10 years ago almost now. Our goal at the time was basically don't overcharge the customers. And having that goal in mind, we had it a little too low to start with. And then we had a little too low the next year, trying to make sure that we weren't taking more than we needed. Now, part of that was just looking and purposeful because we're looking at it from a standpoint of we don't know how all this is going to shake out yet because there's things that we had to measure that we never measured before. Really, you're looking at flows coming into the plant, but that doesn't necessarily translate. It's 1 EDU per 60,000 gallons, but you can't just divide the flow coming into the plant. You have to figure out, all right, here's how many residential units there are. Those are all 1 EDU. Basically, regardless of whether they send us 150,000 gallons a year or they send us 30,000 gallons a year, they're just all 1 EDU. And part of the reason we did that is because we didn't want to waste taxpayer money sending somebody a bill for $2.30 if they use 11,000 gallons a year. Sometimes we could spend more on postage than the bill would be. So rather than doing flow-based and having to get all those readings and enter all those things, we kept residential just as once per unit, this is how it is, and then looked at commercial based on a quarterly, those were flow-based. But I think it would probably be a pretty good idea because you look at a couple of the projects that happened since we did those, all of that initial look at it from setting up, we never had a sewer rate before. The number of units, housing units in the village probably grown 15%. I mean, just North Avenue, there's 90 apartments, I think in that one building, there's another 69 over on, we had 1,590 something residential units. So 10% of that's 159 units. And we've got that between a couple projects, and then Greenbrier's another 124. So, at the end of this, we're gonna be growing, 17 to 21% or something larger residential units. So it might be really good that somebody that's got all the wherewithal, because it was just, us and the treasurers and trying to piece it all together before, so.
Just all common sense, Jake, that's what it is, common
Well,
sense.
it is, but there's things, like I said, and there was, even through the process, they were like, oh, this is gonna last, 20 years or 10 years. Like, we have a trickling filter, or excuse me, our secondary clarifier, it's got a motor that's 60 years old. It's just a tank with some gears, we tested, and it runs fine, and it continues to run fine. And it doesn't cost $120,000 to fix it. We can, pull it out, fix it, upgrade it on a bench for $12,000. And having that knowledge and be able to work with somebody like BPD that we know is good to be able to tell them those things, because otherwise they're looking at industry standard and we're taking more money than we need to from we want to be able to run it and protect it and cover future costs, but not all at once, So.
Right, and UPD is a one-time cost, where the other is a yearly cost. So it's usually $4,500 every year. And they're easy to work with.
Yeah.
Are you asking for a motion to the mayor?
I would love.
Well, wait, but I think you need to get a written proposal from DPD.
Yes.
I do have it. You want to review it first?
Well, has this board seen it? Has anybody seen it but you?
No, but I can forward it on tomorrow, and so you guys can review it.
Well, this board has to approve it, so everybody's got to see it
Right,
first.
right, okay.
Yeah, and then just put it on
And
the,
if it only takes 2 weeks, do it in the next meeting.
yeah,
Okay,
We won't do it,
okay.
that makes
it's
sense.
not a rush.
No, I'm good with that.
That's good.
Thank you. Thank you, Jake.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for.
I see in the summary
Homework.
that there are two things that stick out in my mind for this. It says here that we have a current service agreement with them, and then secondly, they are aware of increases.
But we have one for the wastewater treatment plant project.
So, those two things, I think are important. when we made this projection a number of years ago with the past treasurer, myself, Jake, we looked at what was actually taking place at the time and made projections off of that. And the projections were for what came about basically when we started at $9 million or $8 million, and then it changed to 15, and now it's going on since then. Made a difference, so we'll take a look at that. And
Okay.
we'll put it on the agenda for next.
Sounds like a plan.
Good. All right, anything else? No. If not, then I would say that the next village board meeting will be Thursday, October 10th, here at Village Hall at 7 o'clock. There are a number of things that will be going on. I'm looking out the window and I see things here, so it says October 12th. So things can be mentioned then. That's the Webster Village Meeting Room. There's health and wellness going to take place here, sponsored by the bid. So there are a number of things. There's also a collection, right, taking place, I believe. Shredding event,
Shredding.
document shredding event.
Yeah.
Yes. So that is also on October 12th. We mentioned those. And, Halloween is coming. There are leaders.
I love it.
I think I should've got the corset though.
He said, what have I been doing? I look good.
That's good.
I think they just,
I love it.
didn't they dunk you, Heather?
Yes, apparently Jake said, that's me. I get it.
Very good.
I'll
Or
entertain
maybe
a motion
Maybe it's
to
Don.
close the meeting.
No.
The shoes look like.
Motion.
Everybody
A second.
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Yay, I love the all in favor.
Aye-de-ho.
Thank you for your attendance and for your watching.
And I know you love printing in color, so if you'd like a copy of it, please let me know.
Oh, thank you.